This week, Democrats are attempting to pass the most radical legislation in recent memory. Their multi-trillion-dollar socialist tax and spending spree will bankrupt Americans for generations to come. And House Republicans are united in our fight to defeat this legislation. This bill doubles down on the reckless failed policies of Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi that have caused crisis after crisis in America today. We have a border crisis that is getting worse every single day, and the Democrats' bill this week will make this worse by granting mass amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants and providing billions of dollars in taxpayer benefits. We have the worst inflation crisis in 30 years. This Thanksgiving will be the most expensive holiday in the history of the holiday, and the Democrats are attempting to pass the largest spending bill and the largest tax increase in our nation's history is. And the truth is, no one knows the full cost of the Democrats' 2,000-page plus socialist wish list, not even the Democrats who are voting for it. Earlier this week, we found out that the Biden administration is already preparing House Democrats for a disappointing CBO score. We have an energy crisis with the price of gas skyrocketing across America. And Democrats will make this even worse with a heat your home tax and an attack on American energy independence. Speaker Pelosi and President Joe Biden claim this legislation will rebuild America. But that is just another lie. This legislation will bankrupt America. Hardworking families across my district in New York's North Country and all across America are already paying more for just about everything because of Joe Biden and House Democrats' failed policies. And we simply cannot afford to foot the bill for the Democrats' socialist spending scam. With that, I'd like to turn it over to the Republican whip, Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Elise. Families all across the country are struggling right now. The biggest thing they cite is the runaway inflation. And the inflation is due to President Biden's spending spree that he's already been on. Trillions of dollars already spent this year on increasing big government socialist programs. And then you look at what happened 2 weeks ago in Virginia, when voters in states like Virginia, New Jersey, New York said, we're done with the big socialist spending. Stop the spending. The spending is the thing that's driving inflation, and we don't want more inflation. And the answer that you're seeing Speaker Pelosi heed is that she's going to ignore what the voters said and try to pass trillions of dollars in new additional spending. That's what we stand up against. We are against trillions more spending borrowed from our kids, borrowed from China, that will fuel the inflation that's already too high. And so then we point out some of the things that are in this bill that nobody's been able to see, that people want to know more about. One of those things that we identified they want to spend billions of dollars on is to hire 87,000 more IRS agents. Imagine an army of IRS agents coming after the bank accounts of hardworking families. That's what the Biden administration says they want to do. Not the millionaires and billionaires. They want to snoop on bank accounts of people making over $10,000. So your grandmother on a fixed income will be subject to these 87,000 new IRS agents if they get their way. We don't want them to get their way. By the way, families across America don't want them to have hiring 87,000 more IRS agents. And by the way, when they spend these trillions of dollars, what are some of the other things they want to get these IRS agents to snoop on your bank account to find? They want to use that money to go do things like pay $450,000 per illegal, giving people here illegally checks for $450,000 at the behest of hard-working taxpayers when they send these 87,000 new IRS agents into their bank accounts. And then they're going to do amnesty for millions more people to come here illegally so that they can then what? Negotiate more million-dollar settlements per family for people that come here illegally, while hardworking taxpayers are the ones footing the bill, paying more at the pump, paying more at the grocery store. Enough is enough. We need to stop this madness, this runaway spending here in Washington. We need to defeat this bill. Now, somebody that's going to talk about it who's really been leading the charge, our Budget Committee lead Republican, Jason Smith.
Thank you, Whip Scalise. For months, the Democrats have been obsessed with passing a reckless tax and spending piece of legislation while ignoring the needs of working class Americans. Working class Americans right now are concerned of how they will put food on their table, clothes on their backs, and gasoline in their cars. And just since Joe Biden has become president of the United States, inflation has risen by more than 7%. This bill that is before us, this tax and spending bill, is marked with numerous budget gimmicks and shell games to hide the true cost of the spending. Even independent analysis from numerous economists, even the New York Times, has predicted that this bill is more than double of what the Democrats are saying. Right now, we are facing inflation at the highest amount in 40 years, and their solution is to spend more money. That is not the solution for America. That is not the solution for real Americans who we represent. The CBO has scored roughly 12% of this legislation, 8 of 13 committees. What we do know is that this bill does not pay for itself, regardless of President Biden saying that it will cost zero. What we do know is that this piece of legislation in 5 years will add more than $800 billion to the national debt. That doesn't sound like it cost zero. We hear Democrats say they're fighting for working class families. All you have to do is read the text of this legislation and know that this bill is all about the wealthy. The second largest program in this bill is a large tax cut for the 1%ers. The second largest program is a tax cut for the 1%ers. Huge subsidies for electric vehicles. Paid family leave for millionaires. Folks, Joe Biden wants to build back better, but the American people knows what those 3 B's stand for. It means that it's going to bankrupt the economy, it benefits the wealthy, and it builds the bureaucracy.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kathy McMorris Rogers, proud to serve as the ranking Republican on the Energy and Commerce Committee. Everyone in America knows that we have an energy crisis, we have an inflation crisis, and this radical tax and spending spree is only going to make it worse. You know, I think about a man from Deer Park, Washington. He owns a truck, and that's how he makes his living. And he isn't sure what rising gas prices are going to mean to him, what inflation is going to mean to him. Under this reckless tax and spending spree, we know what it means because they're shutting down American energy. So just like our Keystone pipeline workers, he loses his job. Under President Biden, people are going to be worse off, you know, and President Biden's Secretary of Energy was laughing about this, singing about it. His livelihood is gone. People are losing their jobs. I was also speaking to someone just on Monday, standing in line to get through TSA. And the guy turned around and he said, you know, I'm really concerned about heating my home this winter, how much it's going to cost. Families like his can expect a 30% increase in the cost of heating their homes. And on top of that, in this bill, there'll be an additional heat your home tax. The radical tax and spending spree is only going to accelerate inflation and the energy crisis. This is not the will of the people. It is command and control by the federal government for how much we pay for gas, how we power our lights, how we heat our homes. Maybe everyone needs to get a warmer coat. The size of our homes, where we live, the cars we drive, how we get to work, how we socialize with one another, how we worship, how our children are educated, our employment, our speech, our medical care, our retirement, how we communicate, what we think. We reject it because socialism controls, freedom creates. So coming out of COVID, let's unleash American innovation and entrepreneurship. Let's return power to the people and restore the promise of America. Thank you. And next, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, the amazing Congresswoman from Florida, Kat Kamick.
That's how you do it.
All right.
Very good.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you to Leader McCarthy, Whip Scalise, Chairwoman Stefanik for having me here today. You can probably pick up that my voice is a little froggy today. It's because I've been screaming from the rooftops about how bad this bill is. Much of what my colleagues have said has focused on the heaping pile of hot garbage that this reconciliation bill is. You can call it a number of things: Build Back Broke, Build Back BS, Biden's bankruptcy blueprint, Bernie's budget bailout, but it doesn't matter what you call it because it is still absolute crap. It's simple. If you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And that is exactly what the Democrats have done. Not to mention that not one of them have read the bill. But more than anything, few people have mentioned how selfish this bill is, how completely and utterly self-absorbed it is, and the people who are behind it. We know that good leaders put others before themselves. Parents put children before themselves. It's what decent people do. It's what people who care about future generations and those in their care do. We do what is best for others, not what is best for ourselves or our political party. But this concept is completely lost on our colleagues. The Democrats have desperately needed a political win. They know that Americans today are making hard decisions, whether to fill up their cars or put food on the table. Seniors on fixed incomes are worried if they have enough to make it through to the end of the month. Inflation is killing the American people and the American dream, crushing us under the weight of the reckless government spending from this administration and the Democrat-controlled Congress. We know it, and they know it. The administration knows it, but instead they are so desperate for a win that they are putting politics over people. They are putting politics before the future of this nation. To my fellow millennials and Gen Zers, meet reconciliation, the American dream killer. As you are wrapping up school, you're beginning your careers, you're starting businesses and starting families, the Build Back Broke agenda is killing your American dream. It's saddling you with debt, higher taxes, regulations, and endless social programs that we do not need. This bill is downright selfish. It is the height of greed. It is what the American people have come to expect, however, from Speaker Pelosi and our Democrat colleagues. If there is one thing that you should take away from this here today, it is that the Democrats' selfishness are making you pay more at the pump. It is their selfishness that is making this Thanksgiving the most expensive in American history. It is the Democrats' selfishness and their ability to put politics over people that is strangling Americans, sending American jobs overseas, and garnishing the wages of our children and our grandchildren. But it is that same selfishness that is going to win us back the House in 22. My colleagues and I are ready to fix this mess that this administration has created, and it begins by defeating this bill. And with that, I'd like to welcome my friend and colleague from the great state of Texas, August Pfluger.
That's how I do it. So you introduce the next one.
Good afternoon. I'm August Pfluger. I represent Texas' 11th Congressional District, and for my entire professional career, I've been focused on national security. And not only is reconciliation the American dream killer, but it also ignores every national security aspect that this country must be focusing on. Got two simple criteria for the president. Is the president making us more secure, and is the president making us more prosperous? And the unequivocal answer to that right now is no. You've heard my colleagues talk about how this dream killer is going to bankrupt this country for decades to come. Instead of building back bankrupt, why don't we build back our border? Not a dime in this massive spending spree is going towards securing our border. In fact, billions is being spent to now provide amnesty for almost 8 million people in this country who are here illegally. At the same time that we have 2.1 million people entering this country illegally, the President of the United States, instead of focusing on security, he has abandoned states like Texas. He has abandoned our security needs. And those of us in Texas, and I suspect those of us around this country, have had enough. Every Biden official is clueless about what is really happening on our border. Drug overdoses, mainly fueled by fentanyl, enough of which has entered this country to kill every American 7 times over, has now caused overdoses to the...
First of all, thank you for being here. I want to thank my colleagues for their comments. Then I want you to understand, what has one-party rule brought to this nation? Inflation that we haven't seen in 31 years. Inflation is a tax on every single American. Energy costs, the highest in a decade. We've got a country now, because of this administration, that denies America to be energy independent, but empowers Putin to control Europe and build his own pipeline. Who, as the prices get higher, the only answer from this administration is to beg OPEC to produce more. Crime in our streets, because a one-party rule believes in defunding our police. A border that is not secure, where millions have come across, not just from Central America, but as August talked about, we are catching people on the terrorist watch list from Yemen and other countries. Why are they coming here? What do they have planned? And who are they talking to? One-party rule in 1 year. Just a Tuesday ago was a wake-up call, should have been for the Democrats. But I believe it's deja vu all over again. 10 years ago, Republicans won Virginia, New Jersey, and 4 days later, Nancy Pelosi passed Obamacare. It's not just Republicans warning the Democrats of their legislation. Larry Summers, who served in the Clinton and Obama administration, warned Biden back in February not to go on the spending spree, not to pass the $2 trillion, because inflation would come. As late as June, we had a president on CNN tell us that he knew of no economist who believed inflation would maintain. Just as he believed that Americans could be left behind in Afghanistan. Today, we watch the Democrats not listen to the American public, that they're doubling down again, but this time for almost $5 trillion. What will it do to inflation? Raise it even higher. What will it do to our supply chain? Empower China to be even stronger. Encourage companies in America to move overseas because of the competitiveness they'll be denied here. Nothing in this bill will help us, but only harm us. I know the Democrats might read papers, and they probably read the New York Times, but they ought to read the one today. The headline says Democrats shouldn't panic. They should go into shock, because 7 out of 10 Americans believe we're headed in the wrong direction. Never before have you seen polls like today. And the only reason they are there, because of one-party rule in 1 year, has denied the American public of having a safe street, schools where parents have a say, an economy that's strong without inflation. And their answer is to only double down. I believe 1 year from now, the people will speak again. But we will do all in our power to stop the reconciliation pill, because we say one thing to the American public: we hear you and we fight for you. With that, we open up for some questions. Yes, sir. Did you listen to anything we said? Did you listen to anything the American public said last Tuesday?
I did, sir. But he's about to be censured in an extraordinary way.
Thank you. Next question. Next question.
All right, we'll go right back in. Thank you all, and God bless.